what we see is that in purity culture, people were considering their spouse to be this sexual outlet.
Yep.
Whereas when we look at scripture, sex is it's a way you serve your spouse. It's a way of
Mm-hmm.
creating intimacy and unity. And you can't create unity with your spouse if you are demanding selfishly,
Yep.
right? And so, in fact, that actually destroys intimacy. And
Mm-hmm.
so, I think that sex was placed on such a pedestal, which is funny because you think of the abstinent movement, okay, no sex, but it really put sex on a pedestal and created an idol. Like, this is your goal. If you can get here, and be
Mm-hmm.
pure by the time you get here, then you can just go crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't give us a realistic view of sex and marriage. It didn't give us a view of treating one another as precious image bearers, of showing patience and even self denial in marriage. The idea of sexual self-denial in marriage never came up in those books, and that's something that all married people know, right?
Mm-hmm.
That there are times, and I talk about this a bit in my book, but there are times when your spouse is sick. There are times when painful sex is a huge reality for a lot of women,
Mm-hmm.
and especially for women coming out of purity culture, actually, who have to wrestle with some of the false guilt and things like that. And so those are realities that weren't discussed, and they're part of life. They're part of learning to love like Christ loved the church. And it would have been amazing if those books had taught young men what it meant to lay your life down for your wife, more than
Mm-hmm.
just don't have sex until marriage and then you can go crazy.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. I don't know if this is a great metaphor, but it makes sense to me as far as marriage is. It's like marriage is, I feel like a track meet and that doesn't have a finish line, and I am the hurdles, and it's like I got to get over myself over and over and over again
Yes.
and realize that, man, this is really about a self-giving, not about
Right.
me taking, receiving, and being fulfilled, by a
Right.
person. And I think as a young college age person, I just really sense that and getting into that. So there was so much rewiring I had to do. I felt like going into marriage of like, okay, I knew this would be different than I thought, but this whole idea of what I thought was purity just was really
Yeah.
pretty wrecked once I entered into a marriage relationship.